Narayan Namaskritya Naram Jayam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Piriye Nashtaprayeshu Avadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiti. So continuing with the discussion on Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita by Srila Das Goswami, chapter 37, and Prabhupada is in Vrindavan with his disciples. Near Govardhan at Bindu Sarovar. Now, I don't know where this Bindu Sarovar is. A lake commemorating the place where Radha and Krishna first met. The devotees swam while Prabhupada bathed from buckets of water in the nearby field. Later, while Prabhupada took prasadam, the devotees tried to chase away a few stray dogs by throwing stones and yelling. But Prabhupada stopped them. Leave them alone, he said, and he began throwing the dogs prasadam from his plate. At Barshana, the birthplace of Radharani, the devotees carried Prabhupada on a palanquin up the many steep steps to the temple. On the top of the hill, he looked up toward a distant hill. Just over there, he said, pointing. Krishna used to come down that hill. Radha would come down this hill, and they would meet in the middle. There was a forest there. So this is a very special place because it is the meeting place of Radha and Krishna. So that is the place where Sankrikor is. In each holy place, Prabhupada would sit down, hold a kirtan, and come before the deity and offer obeisances. Then he would briefly describe the pastimes of Krishna related with the particular place. Din Dayadri. The Indians at the holy place were always hounding Prabhupada for money. They assumed that his disciples, being Americans, were rich. So they wanted money. Prabhupada would give something, but there were so many that as soon as he would give to one, half a dozen others would crowd around him, preventing him from walking by. In some of the temples, they wouldn't let us enter. Prabhupada then took his group to the place beside Yamuna, where Krishna had shown his mother all the universes within his mouth. So, Brahmanda Ghat. Touching the water, Prabhupada said, it's too cold for an old man like me, but you take a bath. I'll put a few drops on my head. He directed the women to a separate place to swim where the Indian women bathed, and the men plunged in and began swimming. They sported in the water as Prabhupada stood on the bank, watching. Suddenly, Prabhupada put on a gamcha, walked to the river's edge, sprinkled some water on his head, and then waded in up to his knees. The devotees were delighted to see him duck beneath the water and began bathing and splashing with him in the Yamuna. Srila Prabhupada decided that he would remain in his quarters at Mr. Saraf's home, while his old friend, Nitya Sharan Sharma, took the devotees to Vrindavan's famous temples. Prabhupada did, however, make a point of going with his disciples to visit the Radha Damodar temple, where he had lived for several years, writing Srimad Bhagavatam and Back to Godhead magazine, before going to America in 1965. At the Radha Damodar temple, Prabhupada told the devotees of his plans for an ISKCON temple in Vrindavan. He suggested to the Radha Damodar Pujari that ISKCON use the Radha Damodar temple. We shall prepare the whole temple nicely, Prabhupada said, and we shall make a silver throne for the deity. 50 to 100 men will take prasadam. It will be unique. If we want, we can do it. Otherwise, we can start our own temple somewhere. We are prepared to spend money. If you give us a chance, we'll spend it here. We want to make this a grand festival in Vrindavan because it's Jiva Goswami's place. Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami sat here. We have literature, we have books. Everyone is associating with us all over the world. So first we wanted to take over Radha Damodar temple, because that's where he lived, and the Damodar temple is in the heart of Vrindavan. Jiva Goswami's place, Rupa Goswami used to be there, and it has Rupa Goswami's Bhajan Kutir and Samadhi both. And it's considered, I think at one place, Prabhupada, it's a hub of the spiritual world. Is Radha Damodar temple, it's in the Seva Kunj, and he said it's the hub of the spiritual world. All the 6 Goswamis used to meet there and discuss the scriptures, and other acharyas also. Yamuna Devi Das, His Divine Grace was very frequently giving indication of how much he wanted his rooms at Radha Damodar maintained nicely. He was extremely fond of his quarters there. One night during his stay in Saraf Bhavan, he agreed that he would stay for one 24-hour period within his rooms at the Radha Damodar temple. It was a very exciting event for all of us to look forward to. He selected 3 or 4 men to accompany him to spend the night there at the Radha Damodar temple. So, yes, Prabhupada's room where he used to stay and the room where he used to cook, Prabhupada's kitchen, that has been rented by ISKCON from Radha Damodar temple management, and it's been renovated very nicely. And every day, Prabhupada is being offered over there, noontime. Saraf Bhavan was some distance from Sevak, where the Radha Damodar temple is located. During the very early hours of the morning, I walked through the streets of Vrindavan and arrived at the Radha Damodar temple. Inside of Prabhupada's sleeping room, I could see the light coming through the latticed red stone windows and the wooden shutters. Back and forth, he was walking and chanting. Suddenly, very much to my surprise, the wooden shutters burst open and a shaft of light filled a small corner of the courtyard. Prabhupada stood in his room under one bare light bulb. When he saw me, he asked, "How have you gotten here?" I said that I walked. "Oh, this is not good," he said. "It's very dangerous on the street. There's so many wild dogs and their dacoits. In this quarter, a man will kill even for a lota or a water bottle." So this is Vrindavan, not just Vrindavan, all over Braj. It's rural area. So got to be careful when you come. Not just don't think it's Braj, so everything should be spiritual and transcendental. It's not like that. Got to be careful. So there was some chastisement from Prabhupada on the one hand, but on the other hand, he seemed pleased. "So you're chanting japa," he said, and I said, "Yes, Srila Prabhupada." He said, "This is very nice. So go to the Samadhi of Rupa Goswami and chant there." Then around 4 o'clock, other pilgrims were starting to filter in to attend the morning Aarti program. Prabhupada came out where we were chanting and he said that this corner at Radha Damodar temple was just like the hub of the wheel of the spiritual world. It was the center. He requested that his rooms always be well maintained and there be cleansed daily. I had only met Srila Prabhupada briefly in Bombay. Then I had gone alone to live in Vrindavan. I had lived there about 6 months with the local people, and it was there that I got real attached to Krishna consciousness. I used to just live on the bank of the river with all the Babatis, very simple life. I know it was just by the initial contact with Prabhupada that seed was planted. One day, big bus full of American devotees having a kirtan pulled into Vrindavan, and I was thinking, "Oh, here they are again." The first thing I asked was, "Is Prabhupada coming?" And they said, "Yes, Prabhupada is here. He'll be speaking tomorrow morning." I was already attracted to a lot of gurus in Vrindavan, Prabhupada's godbrothers, and also devotees from other sampradayas. But on the morning when I came for the Bhagavatam class and heard Prabhupada chanting Jai Radha Madhav, I just sat there and listened. I had never seen anyone with such a quality of love for Krishna. All the great people I had met in India became insignificant when I saw Prabhupada chanting Jai Radha Madhav. He was so serious and grave, and the quality of his devotion was so intense. I just couldn't believe it. He kept looking over me at every now and then, kind of nodding, because I guess he remembered me from Bombay. Then he spoke, and he was glorifying Vrindavan so nicely. He was talking about how wonderful Vrindavan is, how spiritual the atmosphere is, and he was talking about how careful the devotees must be to take advantage of the atmosphere. Yeah, that is Vrindavan. From that day, I started thinking, this is my Guru Maharaj, just because of the way he spoke. His lecture had been so precise and inclusive that it had encompassed every other philosophy and every other teacher I had ever heard. I could see also that Prabhupada's example was pure, and I could see his disciples were actually giving up sinful life. I used to go to his darshans every day, although I was still living in the bank of Yamuna. All the people of Vrindavan were glorifying Prabhupada. They were so proud of it because the people of Vrindavan are attracted to Vrindavan. They love Krishna and they love Vrindavan because Vrindavan is a place where Krishna lives. That is their mood. They worship the land of Vrindavan, but they would tell me they appreciated Prabhupada. Most of them would call him Swami Bhaktivedanta. They would say he's the greatest saint because he is bringing Vrindavan all over the world. He's making the glories of Vrindavan known to the whole world. Yes, that's what Prabhupada did. Then one day, Prabhupada and his disciples went to an ashram in Ramanveti. I got there late, just as Prabhupada was leaving. He was walking the last 20 yards or so to his taxi, and many Brajvasis were offering full danvas in the road. I felt very insignificant, another member of the crowd, and as Prabhupada walked by, I offered my full obeisances also. When I lifted my head to get up, however, I saw Prabhupada's feet were right there in front of me. I thought, oh my God, Prabhupada is standing right there. I very slowly looked up, and Prabhupada was just standing there looking right at me. He looked me in the eyes for a couple of seconds and then said, so how long you been here in Vrindavan? I said, about 6 months. Srila Prabhupada, he just looked at me again and he was in a very serious mood, very compassionate, gazing into my eyes. He nodded his head and said, do you like it here? I said, this is the most wonderful place I have ever been in my life. Then all of a sudden, his serious expression just blossomed into the most beautiful smile. His eyes were glistening radiantly, and he looked at me for about 5 or 10 seconds. It seemed like a real long time. I couldn't believe the mercy he was giving me, and then he just replied, that is very nice. Vrindavan is a wonderful place. And then he walked on. This was very special for me because most of the devotees were always telling me I was in Maya for staying in Vrindavan because I was kind of attached to my own program in Vrindavan. I was feeling that the devotees didn't understand, and I was upset with them, thinking that they didn't appreciate the atmosphere. But Prabhupada's words alleviated all my anxieties towards the Hare Krishna movement. It was the most special personal contact. It wasn't that Prabhupada was saying, it was his personal transcendental concern for me. So then I went to his classes every day and all the darshans, and there was no doubt in my mind. He very much convinced me on every level of Krishna consciousness. See, just little association with Prabhupada can change anybody's heart. When Prabhupada left, the devotees told me that I should join and go on parikrama with them all around India. And they said Prabhupada had personally invited me to come. I was unbelievably appreciative that Prabhupada was so merciful. But at the same time, I was very much attached to Vrindavan. I told them I just wanted to stay here. And if they ever come back, I would serve Prabhupada here. But that I didn't want to leave Vrindavan. Soon after that, my visa expired. So I had to leave the country. But before I left, the people of Vrindavan, especially the Babajis, were telling me that Swami Bhaktivedanta had established new Vrindavan in the West. They said, if we have to leave Vrindavan, you should go to New Vrindavan. So that's in America, in Pennsylvania. Oh, West Virginia. So it's at the bottom. So whatever you do, don't leave Vrindavan. New Vrindavan and old Vrindavan are the same because Swami Bhaktivedanta has created Vrindavan in the West. They said it with great pride. So I left for New Vrindavan. Yes, Maharaj served there in New Vrindavan for many, many years, and under very austere conditions. He served. Prabhupada trained his disciples in the etiquette of living in Vrindavan. In the Holy Dham, he said, if one of my disciples drinks from a jug incorrectly and he contaminates that jug, everyone will notice it. Don't be criticized for this uncleanliness, or I'll be criticized. It's a duty of the disciple to follow this etiquette habits very austerely. I'm putting so much energy into this party in India because I want to train you how to live here. Yes, he spent so much time. It's amazing. Prabhupada wrote his disciples in the West of a successful tour of Vietnam. I'm currently in Vrindavan with a party of 40 devotees, and we are having daily parikrama of the holy places. We shall return to Delhi tomorrow by coach. The officials and residents of Vrindavan have greeted us very nicely, and they're simply astounded to see our Sankirtan uh, chanting with great jubilation through the city streets. The mayor has publicly proclaimed that I have done something wonderful, and practically speaking, they realize that before I went to the Western countries, no one there knew about Vrindavan. Now, hundreds of visitors and hippies from your country come here to see Krishna's place. The Vrindavan devotees have understood that Vrindavan is now world famous due to my preaching work. So they're all very much appreciating their hometown Swamiji. And not just Vrindavan, even Jagannath Puri, even now Ayodhya, Dwarka, all these places, how much we heard of when we were living there before came in touch with this and the glories of those places. And now when we go there, the mood is different. Even when we went to Kumbh Mela, I had attended Kumbh Mela when I was in college in Allahabad. But then it was just a bathing ritual. Of course, it must have helped me, but it was just a bathing ritual. But now when you go to Kumbh Mela, you pay obeisances, you have heard the stories. Now the mood is different. And all thanks to Prabhupada. Delhi, December 1, 1970. Upon his return to Delhi, Srila Prabhupada, along with the 40 disciples who had accompanied him to Vrindavan, stayed at the Birla Mandir. The host offered Prabhupada a small house reserved for special guests in the back of the formal gardens. Meanwhile, political turmoil continued to trouble the nation's capital as a threat of an all-out war between India and Pakistan increased. Even peaceful Vrindavan had been disturbed, being only 90 miles from Delhi and 34 miles from Agra, with its large military installation. One night, while Srila Prabhupada had been staying at Saraf Bhavan, the local authorities had ordered a blackout. Srila Prabhupada and the devotees had been confined to the quarters. The electricity had gone off, and everyone had covered their windows with blankets so that even the candlelight could not be detected. Nevertheless, despite political agitation and threats of war, Prabhupada had now come to Delhi to preach. On the second day in the city, he visited the American ambassador to India, Kenneth Keating, at the American embassy. Srila Prabhupada explained to Mr. Keating the basic philosophy of Christian consciousness, the distinction between the material body and the self or soul living within the body. You've got this striped coat, he told Mr. Keating, but I cannot address you, Mr. Striped Coat. Yet we are actually being addressed like that. We are identifying with this body. And Prabhupada explained the soul's transmigration through 8,400,000 species. That is very interesting, Mr. Keating commented. I believe in the transmigration of the soul. It's a fact, Prabhupada said. Just like this child is transmigrating from one body to another, indicated Saraswati. In the same way, when I give up this body, I will transmigrate to another body. This is a science. I see the American boys and girls, although coming from very rich and respectable families, are turning to hippies. In spite of your arrangement for very big universities, they're becoming frustrated. They're no longer satisfied to live in material opulence. So the present position of human society is dangerous because everyone is feeling dissatisfied and confused. So in 71, if this was the situation, we can only imagine now how the world has become. Do you have many Indian followers as well as foreigners? Mr. Keating inquired. Yes, so far as Indians are concerned, everyone accepts Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God. Well, not everyone, but Prabhupada says it must be true. Well, Mr. Keating added, I'm very impressed with the sincerity of these young American men. Everyone, said Prabhupada, as soon as he understands the science of Krishna consciousness, will accept it immediately. When Swami Rajananji was here, aside Mr. Keating, I asked him his definition of God, and he thought a minute and said, well, I would say God is a thread which links one good person to another. I thought that was very interesting definition. This is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada said, just like you have a pearl necklace and it is strung on a thread. So all the pearls are resting on that thread. Everyone is resting in God. Not that only good men should be resting on that thread. The definition given by Vedanta Sutra is perfect. God is the origin of source of everything. What do you say? I'm very impressed, Mr. Keaton replied. Another definition of God, Prabhupada continues, is that he's all attractive. Everyone has attractive features of opulence, strength, fame, beauty, renunciation, and wisdom to some extent. You're an ambassador, a representative of a country. You're attractive. Sometimes somebody comes to me, let me see Swami. So this attractiveness, everyone possesses. But God means he who has God, all attractiveness in full. In full. Nothing is lacking. That is Krishna. After some time, Ambassador Keating apologized and excused himself for an appointment he had to keep. I'm an ambassador and I have to move from the sublime to the mundane. I appreciate very much your comment, Lilamrita. Now, I'm also coming to the mundane point of view. Next time I come back to USA, I wish to see the president. I can write a letter, Mr. Keating, often. I'll be glad to help you. Purpose point. You're busy helping the whole world so that peace may come and people may become happy. But instead of being happy, the people of your country are becoming hippies. There is some defect. And there is a chance to rectify that defect. So let us do something tangible, scientific, so that people will become happy. So how Prabhupada is preaching to that ambassador? So that evening, Prabhupada wrote one of his disciples about the meeting. You may be pleased to know that this morning I met here in Delhi with your American ambassador to India, Mr. Kenneth Keating. He has got very good respect for our movement, and he has promised to help me to arrange a meeting with your president when I shall return to your country. Perhaps in the last spring, I have requested him to help with the movement, and that help will save your country from great danger by turning hippies into happies. Let us see what can be done. So everywhere he goes, everybody he meets, only thing is how I can spread Krishna consciousness. The next day, while Prabhupada was on his morning walk in the streets of Delhi, he asked a devotee to get a paper from the newsboy passing by on a bicycle. Prabhupada read the headlines. Emergency declared, 3 enemy planes down. He had a devotee read aloud. Pakistan launched a massive attack on the Western Front, bombing 7 Indian airfields and crossing the ceasefire line in the strength in Poonch. The Prime Minister, in a broadcast late tonight, described it as a full-scale war launched by Pakistan against India. Earlier, the President had declared national emergency. The national emergency had international implications, with America cutting off supplies to India and supporting Pakistan. China threatened India and Russia supported India. The war will not last long. Prabhupada said immediately, it will soon be finished and Pakistan will lose. So 71 war, we know how Bangladesh was separated from Pakistan. Later that night, he heard Indira Gandhi's broadcast over the radio. I speak to you at a moment of great peril to our country and our people. Today, war in Bangladesh has become a war on India. This imposes on me, my government, and the people of India great responsibility. We have no other option but to put our country on a war footing. Prabhupada was not alarmed. War was not the only ugly reality. Birth, death, old age, disease, and so many other material sufferings were inevitable. War or no war. Prabhupada continued to follow the news, however, and some days Shyam Sundar would purchase for him 3 or 4 different newspapers. I guess this goes on for a while, so we can stop here. See anybody have any questions or comments.
Prabhuji, there is only one page left. We can finish this chapter.
Okay, chalo, let's do it. After a few days at the Birla Mandir, Prabhupada and his party moved to Dharamshala in Kamlanagar district of Port Delhi, where there Prabhupada delivered what the devotees later referred to as the blackout lectures, while black painted newspapers and blankets covered the windows and combat jets flew overhead. Prabhupada would speak by candlelight to his disciples. The propensity to fight is very strong in this age of Kali, he said, and the population is becoming so sinful that they're trying to accumulate atomic weaponry for ultimate destruction of humanity. Sometimes Prabhupada would ask a disciple to speak to the group also. No guests were present since during blackouts, no one could walk the streets, and on some nights the police pounded on the door demanding the devotees extinguish even their candles. Due to the war in India, Prabhupada wrote in a letter, our programs here have been reduced, and there is every night a blackout. Not only in Delhi, but in other parts of India, the disciples were encountering difficulties in their preaching attempts. In Mayapur, the government had ordered the devotees to leave the area because of its close proximity to Bangladesh. In fact, I was very little, 3 years, but I remember we were in Pathankot, Punjab at that time. We used to do the blackout on our glass windows. Black paint used to put. As Prabhupada had predicted, however, the war did not last long. On December 17, Prabhupada read the headlines of the Indian Express. Niazi surrenders. Bangladesh is free. India decides on unilateral ceasefire in West. Prabhupada was joyous. He told the devotees confidently that the reason the war had ended so quickly was because of their massive Sankirtan Yajna at the Pandal a month earlier. And if Prabhupada said, it must be true. On the very same page that had announced India's victory, however, another headline read, PM blames USA for war. Indira Gandhi was blaming President Nixon for the war. American devotees tensed as they walked the streets, sensing the Indians' mistrust, and daily newspaper propaganda only worsened the situation. There is great propaganda now against America and India, Prabhupada wrote, due to the country's stand against India and the war with Pakistan. Delhi was a seat of much political agitation, and Prabhupada decided to relocate the devotees who were there with him. Although the disciples were peaceful and far from being politically active, he sent some to Calcutta, while others accompanied him to Bombay. International politics would not stop the oncoming wave of Lord Chaitanya's movement. Because all this, politics, wars, and whatever situations happen, these are all temporary. These are all temporary things. Permanent is Krishna consciousness. That will go on. So thank you, Prabhuji, for telling only one page left. So tomorrow we can start the new chapter. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.